Hi, it's John. Thanks again for joining us at FinTech Plus. I'm very pleased to be joined today by an old friend, Toby Lewis. He's the founder of Novum Insights and a longtime thought leader in the global corporate venturing scene. He's here to tell us more about that. Hi, Toby. Welcome to the program.
Hi, John. Great to be here. So.
Well, it's always a little bit funny saying that when we're here on Zoom, but it's getting better and better, and nice to have the chance to talk with you. Since we last talked, you've been busy, and I want to get into that in a little bit to talk about all sorts of exciting development in creating blockchain companies and the big work that you do with corporates. But before I get carried away, could you introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, so I am Toby Lewis, founder and CEO of Novum Insights. We're a research firm of blockchain and other frontier technologies. We've spent the last 4.5 years doing a whole bunch of data science work and generally drilling down to look for interesting technologies across the entire blockchain sector. That's been very, very hot, especially in the last year, but since we founded the company, and I think that is hopefully a really interesting thing to talk about with you and your viewers.
Absolutely. We are big fans of blockchain technology and debating its future and application and all that, especially here from Switzerland. Before we get all the way into things, I always like to talk about where people got started. And you didn't obviously start in blockchain. You studied a little bit more of a classical background and then got into journalism. Am I right? Can you talk about that foundation a bit in your career?
Yeah, 100%. So I initially was just studying literature and philosophy, very traditional kind of liberal arts background, which in the UK is quite common, just to sort of read a lot of books, think about a lot of things. Was working particularly fascinated by philosophy and cognitive science, which has quite deep links towards AI, and then moved from there. From studying, ended up as a journalist in the financial services sector, covering stuff which led to me going to Dow Jones, which publishes the Wall Street Journal, and had the privilege to be sort of writing in the 2017, 2018 era, 2019 era, publishing stuff into the Wall Street Journal that was about like high finance, private equity, syndicated loans. I'd spent a lot of time looking at like the CLO, CDO space, and was very, very fascinated by all of sort of structured finance. And as we all know, that in the sort of 2007, 2008 era, that area was very, very problematic, but also very interesting. And then from there, co-founded a venture capital company where I met John, among other things, which is Global Corporate Venturing, which is a premier analyst firm covering the corporate VC space, and had the privilege of co-founding that business. And we scaled very nicely and tracked the different strategies of Intel, Qualcomm, Tencent in the venture space. But my heart was really, really into like the deep data science tracking. How do you build like good quality SaaS tools that sort of deliver Bloomberg-like information on the frontier tech space? So about 4.5 years ago, I decided to set up a firm that was looking at principally at blockchain technology, but some other frontier technologies, which is Novum Insights, and have been really, really enjoying just assembling a team of data scientists and analysts to provide some of the best insights you can get in the blockchain world.
I'm really curious to hear more about the work that you're doing at Novum. Can you talk a bit about the motivation? Because I think that's interesting. You're somebody who was working with some of the top firms around the world and looking at this leading edge idea of corporate venturing. What was it that made data science and looking at these emerging technologies that attracted you so much?
Yeah, so well, I think that the usage of good quality data science to spot trends is, I think, beyond important, right? I mean, if you look at the defining companies of our day, principally they're actually data science companies, be it Amazon, Google, Facebook, Twitter. What they're doing is really Netflix, their ability to mine and use data. And you could easily say the same for your principal targets. The edge that Revolut or Monzo or Lemonade or any of these groups are looking at is the how they are leveraging the data they're able to build up to secure a competitive advantage. And I think that the sort of fintech sort of battle cry has been largely around like the open banking APIs and the ability of new young companies to leverage the great high quality tech techniques to provide a better experience for consumers, right? And provide optimize the quality of the financial products people are receiving. In the blockchain space, I found that really, really fascinating when I was setting up the business 4 years ago. Even back then, everyone was like, well, blockchain looks like it's going to be a thing. It seems to be exploding. Ethereum had just come out. There were a lot of the consortiums forming around Hyperledger, R3 Corda at that time. And obviously, like Bitcoin was getting back into the headlines, and just a lot of activity was going on, but a lot of people were going, well, this is a space that seems to be really impactful. There was a lot of noise, a lot of buzz, and a lot of shallowness to that noise and buzz. And I thought that was perfect for a analytics, data science focused company to come into the market and try and help people understand what is noise, what is real, and from there, I think we built a pretty good business, and it's scaling really nicely.
It's always interesting for me. I'm not a data scientist, and certainly not an expert on AI at the level of many people out there. But I'm familiar with the fintech ecosystem, and a lot of the discussion to me certainly does sound like noise. And that's why I always find it interesting to talk to people from data science and the idea of how can we take structured and unstructured information and combine that in ways that really allow us to generate valuable insights. When you look at the fintech world and you see a lot of the noise out there, what are some of the things that, without necessarily going into the technical details yet, what are some of the tools that Novum Insights is in a broad way able to leverage to cut through the noise?
We essentially, we're looking at different data pieces in the blockchain space. So we principally focused on a new decentralized exchange called Uniswap, which got very, very exciting, right? So many of your listeners, I'm sure, have heard about decentralized finance. I spent the last 2 years advising a lot of very, very interesting early decentralized finance projects, and witnessed that sort of marketplace, which was a kind of subset of the crypto space, explode from sub $1 billion to, I think, roughly $35-40 billion market today. And that's been in just a year, right? And I think it is because partly that space is building the next wave of fintech. So we're looking at roughly 30,000 pairs on Uniswap at the moment, mining the data underneath that exchange. And our first product tailored to the DeFi space is our momentum pairs. So effectively, we look at those tokens that are trending the most in a week, 30 days, and 90 days, and then argue that that is a good sort of high beta thing to add to any DeFi portfolio, because basically many of those tokens are going up 50% a week in price. So as part of a diversified strategy, they can be quite an interesting uncorrelated asset to own in your portfolio. We're then looking at we built a DeFi calculator, and we're also looking at interesting ways you can get yield. So you can what I find fascinating about the DeFi space is you can hold assets that are pegged to the dollar or the euro that can give you yield for helping provide a market of roughly 10 to 9%, maybe more, sometimes as high as 20%, simply for holding something that is a synthetic euro or a synthetic dollar. So you can have these very high performing assets in the portfolio, that some of which will go down 30% in a week, but sometimes will go up 50%. But you can combine that with parts of the portfolio that are designed to map just a currency, or map a Bitcoin, or map certain assets. And I think it's only just getting started. And that is mind blowing in a world where we're talking at about 2% interest rates.
As a journalist, I wanted to take the opportunity to ask you, Toby, a big part of the criticism of the DeFi world is that it's kind of a rarefied expert community of technologists and crypto enthusiasts, and that it's not necessarily something that the mainstream public understands. When it comes to adoption and the wider world embracing decentralized finance, how do you kind of look at that topic, and what are your words on that?
Yeah, well I think that is I mean, I've always been a big believer in early adopter communities, right? So the I think the way of looking at it is crypto and decentralized finance has some of the attributes that made the fintech companies of today, right? So what you'll see is, and so I think there's huge rewards for being involved in an early adopter community by its very nature, right? Like the early people who built Netscape and those kind of things were like it basically, you need to grapple with problematic expert based user interfaces, and like the role that we definitely fulfill. And I think as you say, the journalistic element is what we're trying to do, is distill and simplify fields that that are not necessarily intelligible to the average user, right? So I was writing about the CLO market and the CDO market at like Dow Jones and for the Wall Street Journal when 2008, 2007 was going around. And so that was a really, really great period. And then similarly, I loved sort of trying to unpick what was going on in the corporate VC market from 2011 to 2015. I can remember when we were setting up that business, many people thought we were absolutely crazy mapping corporate VC, because they were like, well, I can name one corporate VC at the time, and it was probably Intel. And they were like, well, is this really a thing? And we happened to think it was, and we happened to be lucky in that. And I think from my point of view, the same thing goes on in the DeFi, blockchain, crypto space. Is there's a lot of value in understanding what is real and what is noise in these early adopter markets, right? And I think very, very clearly you see a lot more of the real coming about at the moment, and that's really, really exciting. I think 2017 era crypto was definitely like there were a whole bunch of projects. They didn't really work. They raised a lot of money, and many of them ran out of that money, right? But I think that's just the nature of the startup world. And like I'm a big believer in the way I know you may have read John Carletta Perez's work on bubbles and those kind of things. Like the way to think about any form of like where a lot of money is flowing into a hot area of tech with a lot of potential is that a lot of those applications will be wrong, and a lot of those entrepreneurs will get their assumptions wrong. But the net effect of that capital coming into a space and the potential meeting the high potential technology will be the really transformative companies of tomorrow.
We have seen that, and yeah, great reference there to think of. Another topic that we're very passionate about, that I know you are as well, and we've talked a little bit about it with data science, but artificial intelligence is one of these themes that seems to be, as I call it, market ready, and it's going up the interest curve and commoditization adoption curve. What are some of your thoughts around artificial intelligence beyond what we've already been saying?
Yeah, no, I think AI is just incredible, right? Like I love playing around with with different AI tools, and we're I think it is a really, really great space. I was dealing with a company the other day actually, which was looking at the NFT space and was looking at partnering with OpenAI to begin generating like new randomly generated so-called non-fungible tokens of these things, and effectively you could sort of imagine these things just gradually being um, given certain inputs and being created. I think the AI space, and that's obviously a very super trivial, super kind of use case that is perhaps on the gimmicky scale, right? But at the same time, you're like I think the iterations of things that are going to come out of what you can do with AI. We're really at that early product building stage, and everyone's sort of. I mean, I think you're seeing many of the European kind of unicorns and that kind of thing. I think AI is so big in sort of factories, automation, but I think it's gonna just embed itself in everything online that we do. I mean, the two of the um, obviously sort of Siri and Alexa are probably some of the great consumer tech success stories of our day, right? And I think there is the work that's been done by the likes of Google and Facebook on AI, among others. I think it's almost worrying, that kind of arms race of the tools that these groups are assembling. But it's still it's still a massively fascinating space and very, very high potential. And I think that we just need to harness it and get sort of I think Elon Musk, among others, has been championing like a form of ethical AI. I think Bill Gates has waded in on that topic as well. And I think that we definitely need discussions about how AI is used and what's done with it.
I agree with so much of what you've just said, and we could go on at great length about that. One of the things I noticed as well that I think ties into some of this stuff is the concept of the circular economy and how new ideas about how business models should function are more efficient, more collaborative, plays into all of this. Do you want to say a few words about the circular economy as well before we dive into some of the philosophy maybe behind all of this?
Yeah, no, I'm a big believer in the circular economy. I think it's so important in terms of where we go, just building in systems for recycling and reuse and remanufacturing, and I think that um, the I'm really glad that the ESG agenda is getting um, I think moving suddenly beyond like the greenwash phase of the cycle, right? Like I think we advised actually and did quite a bit of analyst work with one of our big corporate clients on the whole ESG space, looking at the different businesses that are emerging, and I think there's huge marketplaces being formed. I think blockchain and crypto and AI, all of those tools are where a lot of people are looking for how do they do something scalable on that angle, right? Because you can use like the use of like the big dream of like the big private blockchains is being able to know everywhere that the assets are in the chain, right? And then the you with the crypto sort of experimentations, if you can get successful kind of local economies that actually work, and you can reward people for the externalities, that is a game changer. I've been quite enjoying working on a lot of early experiments in terms of like, can you actually like literally make consumers do well by doing good? And I think you'll see many more of those schemes work where people can go, well, I can earn like up to like $1,000 plus just simply by getting my recycling right and these kind of things um, that would be really exciting. I think would be a game changer. Then you've got like the um, just where how do you use AI sensors to sort of and IoT and all of these things to begin going, look, you're like a big provider. There's no reason why like the big manufacturing companies and all of these kind of things can't be proactively fixing sort of dangerous machines and machines that are consuming too much carbon dioxide. And you can imagine we get to an age where kind of like a lot of the worst behaviors are at least jumped upon in a clever way by the use of technology.
What I was wondering, as you were saying some of that, is tracing back to your experience in the corporate venturing world. I know some of what you do relates now much more directly to the entrepreneurial side of things, and often actually ties into wealth management, as we were talking to a bit earlier. Do you see major distinctions in how innovation and venturing is approached when it comes to public companies and more private companies like those owned by entrepreneurs and family businesses?
100%, and that really resonates. So I think like obviously I had a deep background and understanding of like the corporate VC space, and have huge admiration for the franchises that have been built by the likes of Intel Capital and Tencent and Google and Salesforce and whatever. So corporate venturing done well can be a masterclass in using the tool, which is your company's balance sheet, to keep an eye on strategic areas for your business and ensure that you can, like the whole dream of corporate VC and all of these spaces, you really want to know when an Airbnb or an Uber is happening at real time if that is going to have a strategic impact on your business. I think the reality is that in a lot of corporates that they can really have what is known in the corporate VC lexicon as too many strong corporate antibodies that actually stop corporate venturing from being done very well at all. So you can actually end up being a corporate VC and a corporate VC for a hotel booking company and be screaming at your management that Airbnb was about to wipe out 10 to 20% of your revenue, and you can kind of bet that you wouldn't be able to make your case in a lot of those companies. So and I think you're probably right. You in the private area, the family office culture, the top VC culture, like they 100% once people, even the story of Airbnb is quite a funny one, but once people realized how much that business was going to scale, the VC money and the family office money just rammed in behind it, right? And I think there is just an advantage. I think we're moving much more to that kind of world, right, where sort of Instagram was built with 12 people before it sold to Facebook. WhatsApp was built with 60 people before it sold to Facebook. There's so many of these examples. Facebook itself started in a college dorm room, right? And a lot of the great things of our day are done by a small handful of very smart, savvy people. And so I think there's just this huge shift away from the corporate world generally, right? Because those structures are quite old world, right? They're Taylorist like structures in many ways, and the obviously like you've got like the best open innovation models like Amazon, Tesla, like a lot of the public tech companies and other kind of entrepreneurially led companies have fought really hard to keep that DNA as they've scaled. But I think naturally I always find I mean what like the corporate VC world, I would say, is a very, very privileged part of a corporate, right? Because they're getting to spend time with entrepreneurs and spend time with the corporate mothership, and try and bridge that gap and get and when it's done well, they can really like leverage. I mean, the business in a completely different direction. I think like just generally the entrepreneurial tech space has been on a 15-year plus growth trajectory, and it's hard to see those kind of management structures stopping in terms of how they gain enthusiasm and support.
I think it's a fascinating point, and we can't unfortunately go on forever. But I think you raised the really important question of how do people sort through all that and bring focus into what they're doing. And I thought that would be an interesting point to round things out and to just refocus again. Where does Novum Insights stand right now in terms of client engagement? And for those who are interested to get the sort of really advanced insights that you're able to provide, can you say a little bit more about how to work with Novum?
Yeah. So in terms of if you're wanting to find out more about the DeFi space, it's really, really easy. You can go to our website. We literally have a tool that costs you £1 to sign up for, and you can sign in, explore. There's a lot of interesting kind of trading ideas in the DeFi space. We also are running like a weekly workshop for people to discuss interesting trading ideas. It's getting a lot of traction that way. And then this is like the B to C to B part of our model. So the C part of our model and you can literally get an annual subscription to that for £300, which is pretty cool. And then then we're obviously working. We do due diligence services. We've worked on sort of enterprise layer API access, and can begin helping people really unpick the big data trends and where they go. And then we're also for those who are wanting to track the DeFi crypto space, we've set up a Novum Advisors business. It's become quite a strongly performing hedge fund, so we're very happy. That's a sister business of ours, and happy to talk with high net worths and family offices about that.
Congratulations. It sounds like things are progressing with every twist and turn in your evolution in the financial market evolution. Toby, I wondered if you had any final messages for the FinTech Plus audience today.
I'm a huge believer in the FinTech world. It's a great service that you're doing, John, putting a spotlight on people you find interesting. So I feel very honored to sort of come here. I think fintech is still in its infancy, even though it kind of feels so great, like what's been built in the early layers of fintech. Right? And I've spent much of my time. We were incubated out of Rise, which is the Barclays FinTech Accelerator, and we were in level 39. So I spend a lot of my time with different fintech entrepreneurs, and always interested in what's going on in fintech, and if people are interested in the bridge of fintech to the blockchain space, always very happy to talk about that.
Well, Toby, it's been a real pleasure, especially catching up on how things have evolved in this nexus of open innovation. I'm looking forward to having the chance to catch up in London or Zurich in the future, but until then, be sure to keep in touch. And thanks for joining us again today and sharing your wisdom. All the best.
Amazing, John. Thank you. Cheers.